Welcome to the deep dive. Today,
We're spicing things up.
literally, we're diving into the world of cloves.
Those tiny powerhouses you might know from holiday baking.
Turns out they might be good for a whole lot more than just sticking in oranges.
We're looking at an article that's got me really curious.
It claims chewing just one clove a day can have some surprising health benefits.
I'm ready to get spicy.
Cloves have a long history in traditional medicine.
So I'm always fascinated to see what modern research says.
Okay, so before we get to the supposed superpowers of cloves,
Let's start with the basics.
so those of us who think clove and picture a gingerbread house.
What exactly are we talking about?
Great question.
Cloves are actually dried flower buds from the clove tree.
Native to Indonesia.
What's fascinating is that Indonesia has a long tradition of using cloves in medicine.
Not just cooking.
See, I love that.
It's like our grandparents were onto something with these old school remedies.
Now, the article mentions eugenol a lot.
What's the deal with that?
Is that like the secret sauce of cloves?
You could say that.
Eugenol is the main oil found in cloves.
It gives them that strong aroma and taste.
And research suggests that a lot of the health benefits we're going to talk about link back to eugenol.
But here's the cool part.
It's not just about isolating eugenol.
It works in synergy with all the other compounds in cloves.
So it's not as simple as popping a eugenol pill.
Exactly.
Plants are complex.
And their compounds work together in ways we're still figuring out.
That's both exciting and a little humbling, right?
Okay, let's get to the good stuff.
The potential health benefits of cloves.
Antimicrobial pain relief, digestion, inflammation.
Even mood boosting and anti-cancer properties.
That's a lot at 8 to pack into something I can barely see across the room.
It's an impressive list for sure.
And as always, it's important to approach these claims with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Some have more scientific backing than others.
So let's break them down one by one.
I'm ready to dive in.
Let's start with the antimicrobial thing.
I know cloves are used in oral care.
So that tracks.
Like my grandpa used to swear by clove oil for toothaches.
There's actually science behind that.
Cloves have been used for centuries in traditional remedies for toothaches and other oral issues.
And modern research is backing this up.
Studies show that eugenol does have antimicrobial properties.
Which means it can help fight certain bacteria, fungi, and even some parasites.
That's why you'll find clove oil in some dental products.
But a word of caution.
Like anything potent, too much clove oil can actually irritate your gums.
So maybe don't go chugging clove oil, got it?
Okay, what about pain relief in general?
The article makes it sound like cloves are nature's aspirin.
Well, not quite aspirin.
But there's definitely something to the pain-relieving properties of cloves.
Again, eugenol is the key player here.
Studies show it has analgesic properties.
So it's like nature's little numbing agent.
I knew Grandpa was onto something.
In a way, yes.
But it's important to remember, this is likely temporary relief.
Not a long-term solution for chronic pain.
Okay, that's good to know.
Don't ditch your prescribed pain meds just yet.
What about digestion?
The article mentions cloves being good for that too.
This one is particularly interesting.
Because it ties directly back to how cloves have been used traditionally in some cultures.
Really?
How so?
Well, cloves seem to stimulate the production of digestive enzymes.
Which help break down food.
They might also relax the muscles in your digestive tract.
So they're like a little massage for your gut.
Sign me up. The article also mentions something about H. pylori.
Yes.
Now, H. pylori is a type of bacteria that can infect your stomach,
Potentially causing ulcers and gastritis.
which is basically inflammation of the stomach lining.
And while some studies suggest that cloves might help inhibit H. pylori growth,
We need more research before making any definitive conclusions.
got it, promising, but more research is needed.
It seems like that's the theme with a lot of these potential benefits.
Science takes time, right?
Okay, so we've covered antimicrobial pain relief and digestion.
What's next on the list of clove superpowers?
This is where things get really interesting.
But we need to be careful about overstating the effects.
The article claims that cloves might have mood-boosting properties.
Even going so far as to compare eugenol to antidepressants.
Oh, hold on a minute.
Are they seriously suggesting swapping your meds for a clove a day?
No, absolutely not.
And it's crucial to stress that cloves are not a replacement for prescribed medication or professional help for depression.
But the article does bring up an interesting point.
About how eugenol interacts with certain brain chemicals that affect mood.
It mentions something called MAOIs.
MAOIs.
That sounds a little intense for something I put in my spice rack,
It does sound intense.
but it's actually quite fascinating.
MAOIs stand for monoamine oxidase inhibitors.
These are a type of antidepressant that work by increasing certain chemicals in your brain.
Think serotonin, dopamine, the happy chemicals.
And while eugenol does show some very early signs of acting similarly to MAOIs,
It's not as strong or predictable as the actual medication.
so not quite a brain chemistry overhaul from a clove then. And it's super important to be cautious about these claims.
While the potential link between eugenol and mood is definitely interesting and worth further research.
Cloves are not a substitute for professional mental health care.
Absolutely. If you're struggling with your mental health, please reach out to a qualified professional.
Don't rely on cloves alone to solve complex issues.
Now, I'm curious about the next claim. Antioxidant power.
Isn't that pretty standard for anything plant-based?
You're right.
Many fruits, vegetables, and spices contain antioxidants.
And cloves are no exception.
Antioxidants are like little bodyguards for our cells.
Protecting them from damage caused by free radicals.
So eating cloves is like sending in a tiny army to fight off those nasty free radicals.
Exactly.
And a varied diet full of antioxidants is always a good thing.
Noted. Now for the big one.
The claim that's raising eyebrows all over the place. Anti-cancer properties.
This is where we need to be very, very careful.
While there's some very early research suggesting that cloves might have some anti-cancer potential.
The article mentions lung cancer specifically.
Yes.
And there have been some very preliminary studies in labs.
That suggests some compounds in cloves might slow down the growth of lung cancer cells.
But this is a far cry from being a proven treatment or cure for lung cancer in humans. So more about potential than proven results.
Exactly.
We never want to give people false hope.
Or encourage them to ditch conventional cancer treatments in favor of unproven remedies.
Absolutely.
It's crucial to listen to your doctor and follow evidence-based treatment plans.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of potential benefits.
Some more promising than others.
But for someone who's intrigued and wants to try this whole 1 clove a day thing,
What's the deal?
do you just chomp it down like a breath mint?
Well, you could. I take it there's a slightly more refined method.
You could chomp it down like a breath mint, but you might not enjoy it.
Cloves are potent.
And the flavor can be intense.
The key is to chew the clove thoroughly to release those oils.
And swallow it. So, a little more involved than your average breath mint experience.
But hey, for all these potential benefits, maybe it's worth a little effort.
Exactly.
And for those who aren't quite ready to chew on a whole clove,
There are gentler options.
ground cloves can add a warm, slightly sweet flavor to both sweet and savory dishes,
You can also find clove extract or clove oil.
which can be diluted and used in cooking or even topically.
Okay, so chewing is the most direct route.
But there are options for the flavor-sensitive folks out there.
What about dosage?
Is 1 clove a day the magic number?
Or can you overdo it?
That's a great question.
Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
The ideal amount of clove can vary from person to person.
Depending on your health and how your body reacts.
1 clove a day is a reasonable starting point.
But pay attention to your body's signals.
Listen to your body.
Always good advice.
You mentioned clove oil can be used topically.
What does that involve?
Are we talking DIY face masks here?
I'd hold off on the clove oil face mask.
While clove oil does have some potential benefits for skin,
It's incredibly strong and can irritate the skin if not used carefully.
we're talking potential burns here.
Not just a little redness.
Okay, noted.
Maybe skip the clove oil spa day
Definitely.
if you're interested in using clove oil on your skin.
Dilute it properly in a carrier oil like coconut oil or jojoba oil.
And always do a patch test on a small area of skin before applying it more widely.
Smart advice.
It's easy to get carried away with natural remedies.
But even natural substances can be potent.
You're absolutely right,
And that's especially true for clove oil.
which can be toxic in high doses.
Speaking of toxicity, we touched on potential side effects earlier.
Can you elaborate on those?
What are the risks of using cloves?
Even in moderate amounts.
It's important to acknowledge those risks,
As with any substance, there can be side effects.
especially with overuse,
The most common ones with cloves are usually mild.
like stomach upset, heartburn, or diarrhea.
Nothing too alarming there.
Exact.
It's reassuring that most issues stem from overusing clove oil.
Not from enjoying a clove now and then.
However, excessive clove oil consumption can lead to more serious problems like liver damage.
As we mentioned earlier.
And because clove oil can thin the blood.
It's important to be cautious if you're taking blood-thinning medications or have a bleeding disorder.
So, the takeaway here is to talk to your doctor.
Before adding cloves to your routine?
Especially if you're on any medication or have any underlying health conditions.
Absolutely.
Even in healthy individuals, going overboard with cloves can lead to problems.
Moderation is key.
Exactly.
Cloves are like that special spice you add to a dish to enhance the flavor.
Little goes a long way.
You wouldn't douse your entire meal in cloves, right?
That's a great analogy.
Okay, we've talked about the potential benefits, potential risks.
And how to incorporate cloves safely.
But the big question remains.
Is chewing a clove a day going to be the next big health trend?
Will we all have clove breath soon?
Well, it's certainly possible.
Cloves have a lot going for them in terms of those potential health benefits.
And let's be real.
People are always looking for natural ways to improve their health and well-being.
Especially these days.
When there's so much emphasis on natural remedies and traditional practices.
But is there enough scientific evidence to support all the hype?
That's the million-dollar question.
While cloves have a long history of use in traditional medicine,
And some exciting research is emerging.
we need more rigorous scientific studies to confirm their effectiveness and safety.
So we can't definitively say cloves cure everything.
Not just yet.
While some of the claims about cloves might be proven true with further research.
It's essential to be realistic and avoid jumping to conclusions based on preliminary findings.
That's where we come in, right?
Sifting through the hype and providing some grounded perspective.
Exactly.
We want our listeners to make informed decisions about their health.
Which means looking at both the potential benefits and risks.
And as always, talking to your doctor before making significant changes to your diet or lifestyle.
Couldn't agree more.
So while cloves might not be a magical cure-all,
They're a fascinating spice with a rich history and some exciting potential.
whether they become the next big health trend remains to be seen.
But they're definitely worth exploring further.
I'm with you.
It's incredible to think about the power that might be hidden in such a small spice.
Now for those wanting to dive deeper into the world of cloves,
We've got some great resources linked in the show notes
we've put together a list of reputable studies and articles.
that explore the science behind cloves and their potential benefits.
Knowledge is power.
The more informed you are.
The better equipped you are to make decisions about your health.
Speaking of knowledge, we've covered a lot of ground on cloves today.
We have.
We've journeyed from their origins as flower buds to their potential as antimicrobial agents.
Pain relievers, digestion, aids, anti-inflammatories, mood boosters.
And even, dare we say it, potential cancer fighters.
We do dare say it.
But with the huge caveat that those claims need much more research.
Before we start stocking up on cloves as a cure-all,
Absolutely.
it's important to stay grounded in the science.
Even when we're excited about a natural remedy like this.
So for our listeners who are thinking, okay, this is fascinating,
But how do I actually bring cloves into my life?
any final tips? We've talked about chewing on a whole clove, adding ground cloves to food,
Yeah.
using diluted clove oil. But one thing we haven't mentioned yet is clove tea.
Oh, clove tea.
That sounds delicious.
Especially as the weather gets colder.
Is it as simple as steeping some cloves in hot water? Clove tea does sound pretty perfect right now, actually.
It is surprisingly simple to make.
You simmer a few whole cloves in water for about 10 to 15 minutes.
Then just strain and enjoy.
Simmer, strain, sip, easy enough.
Exactly.
Some people like to add a bit of honey or lemon for extra flavor.
And you can even experiment with other spices like cinnamon, ginger, cardamom. The possibilities are endless.
Okay, now I'm really getting hungry. That clove-infused apple cider I mentioned is sounding better and better.
I might have to try that this weekend.
You let me know how it turns out. I might need to steal that recipe.
Deal.
Sharing is caring, especially when it comes to delicious clove concoctions.
But speaking of which, we should probably reiterate our usual disclaimer.
As with everything, clove-related moderation is key.
Absolutely.
Don't go overboard thinking more cloves equal more benefits.
Start slow. See how your body responds and enjoy the exploration.
Great advice.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the amazing world of cloves.
It's been a pleasure uncovering the history and the science behind this powerful little spice.
A huge thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey.
We hope you learned something new, had a few laughs along the way.
And maybe feel inspired to add a little clove into your life.
And if you do try any of our clove-inspired ideas, let us know.
We're always up for hearing about your culinary adventures.
You can find us on all the usual social media platforms.
That's right. Share those clove creations with the world.
But more importantly, share the knowledge. Until next time, happy diving.